Hi guys, Toker here with a new video, and this video we're going to talk about reworks. Yes. We always talked about specs that actually needed a rework, actually felt alright, or actually feels like they need a bit of a PvP talent bump or whatever. We're going to talk about it right now. It is a fun tier list. It's soon on this cycle for 10.2, so things can change. I don't think we're going to have big reworks except for rogues. Big spoiler, rogues got a rework, so they are going to get onto the must get reworks kind of thing. I don't really need to explain anymore because they get a rework, but I'm going to explain every single spec out there. Again, it's my opinion, we can be wrong, but that's why we have the comment section below where we can discuss about it. It's mostly about PvP, but guess what, PvE is also going to get changed because the spec, if they change the spec in PvP, most likely they will also change in PvE. Anyways, let's talk really quickly about the tier list. I'm going to try to be fast, but again, you know me, I ramble a lot. I try to actually explain my thought process behind every single spec. So we have must get rework. That means that the specs really need a rework. There is no going around it. We just need a rework. We don't really need like the class to be OP, but it must feel like it's fun to play, or you have variety, you have choices to make. That's very important. Rework it means that my opinion is that you kind of need to change it a lot, but it is not really on high. It's high on my priority list, but it's not the highest on my priority list. Tweak it means that you kind of change a few talents, like positions, for example. Something that we get for resto druids, most likely, more like all the time actually. Or for example, Disc Priest got a few changes on their talent tree. It's not a rework, but it's like a tweak, which is going to alter gameplay for the better or for the worse. Again, a rework can also be a flop, but most likely is going to get changed. Simple buffs and nerfs are pretty much like it's written, simple buffs or nerfs, depending on the areas of the kit. Yeah, it's basic, right? Don't touch means that the spec is fine. I mean, like gameplay wise, it is fine. There's not a lot of specs there, in my opinion. I think Dragonflight is a beta for the talent trees, because that's the first time we get back on the normal talent trees. I think the next expansion will be the better one, the better talent tree, where we're going to have it finalized finally, or at least they're going to have like the final form kind of thing. Anyways, let's talk right away about the rogues real quickly. They get a rework. You already saw my assassination rogue video. I'm going to make also a subtlety rogue and also a outlaw rogue, but I'll wait for a few bug fixes to do the subtlety and the outlaw rogue. It was very needed. I think they all those three specs became much funner to play. Now, is it going to be much stronger? We will have to see. Assassination rogues, I reckon, is much stronger than previously, but it's still a poison and bleed spec, which is countered by multiple specs and classes. But a rework is not only to make a class stronger, it is also just to make it feel better in general. Let's talk about the Retribution Paladin. I think we just need simple buffs and nerfs. I'm going to talk because they already reworked it, so I don't expect them to rework it again. And I feel like gameplay-wise, they feel alright. They feel very good, actually. But I would need a buff towards self-healing. I think the thing that was actually fun to play about like hybrids back in the day, when I'm talking back in the day, I'm talking about Wrath of the Lich King, I'm talking about Cataclysm, Mist of Pandaria. You actually had self-healing and group healing, and that was your utility, that was your USP, that was why you took a Paladin with you in a 3v3 scenario or in an RBG in Cataclysm or whatever. You had like great off healing and great utility with your bobs, for example. So I feel like you should buff the healing and maybe nerf other parts of the kit. For example, you could nerf the Shield of Vengeance, maybe like the value, but you give like a big buff towards healing, so you have active things to press that feels rewarding. Again, I'm not saying gutting Shield of Vengeance. I'm saying like try to find space to actually put healing back into the kit of Retribution Paladin, because currently healing is purely passively or shielding, and you don't really have any great healing except of a lane on hands that you could do on an ally, which is a bit sadish, I would say. Holy Paladin, I'm going to say don't touch. Yes, you can maybe nerf or buff a few areas, but I think it's not a priority. I think Holy Paladin being very strong is good as long as the other healers are actually also great. I think currently having healers being strong is a good thing. We want healers back into the game. I think it's also very fun to be able to deal some damage. It's a shame that it kind of nerfed it over the patches, but I think it's alright. If it does more damage than, I would say, the usual archetype of healers, I think I would be fine. I really like the Shokadin build from back in the day in Wrath of the Lich King. I'm still playing that. I think it's very fun to play Shokadin. I think it's also fun to have a Holy Paladin being able to dish some damage and also heal some damage done by to your allies, and being able to actually feel good. Mastery is still boring, but at least they fixed it with a talent. I think overall it's also a very successful rework. I think Holy Paladin and Retribution Paladin are both very, very successful reworks. I'm going to talk about Protection Paladin. I think Protection Paladin, it's very hard to talk about it. I think I'm going to say that most tanks, I want them to be reworked for PvP. Again, I'm going to precisely say PvP. It's not on my priority list, but it is a thing that I already voiced my opinion about tanks. I'm not against tanks in PvP. What I would like to be done with the tanks is that they are turned into support DPS. Support DPS, what is the meaning? It is like, for example, an augmentation evoker. They are not tanky like HP wise. They're tanky because they have like abilities that they can press to heal themselves, heal their allies, being annoying. But the part that is annoying with augmentation evoker is there's only one support spec right now, and augmentation evoker does it very well. So what people would like to see, I guess, in the future is to have multiple specs that are actually doing good, supporting their allies somehow, some way, without making it like obnoxious. I think augmentation evoker has a lot of one shots, plus also the supporting, plus also not being able to be killed very easily. That's all a combination of things that make it very annoying to deal with. But I think if you had tanks being supports that can actually deal damage without also being killable, you're not really a tank anymore. So your HP pulse is the same as a DPS. Like for example, DK, I would say, like a higher like DPS spec health pulse, I would say. But the damage is going to be alright. So I think rework it is probably the way I would say. I would like to see tanks being support DPSs in PvP. It's not about PvE. PvE, they are going to stay tanks. That's not a problem. But I like the playstyles of tanks. Like, for example, Protection Paladin being sword and board is actually cool. But it would be cooler if you actually deal damage and not being obnoxious and not, like, being killable is alright. But I think it would be also alright to be able to dish damage as an arms warrior, but with the playstyle of sword and board. Anyways, Protection Warrior also indeed rework it. I would say also Garden Druid. I would say also Vengeance Demon Hunter. All the same arguments, pretty much. We want them to be able to be support DPS. Again, Blood Decays. I have fond memories from Wrath of the Lich King, where Blood Decays actually did armor pen and actually did a lot of damage. I really liked that era of Wrath of the Lich King, where tanks actually did some alright damage. They were a bit less killable. Again, there are tanks, but they are like not the killing machines like people are remembering. Protection Warrior can one-shot on Wrath of the Lich King, but I don't want to ask you guys to rework it to one-shot, but they can be like doing a bit less damage than Arms Warriors, but being supporting their allies through CDs or through important abilities that they can press. That would be my argumentation behind it. Alright, the tanks are gone. We can talk about the meaty stuff now. Let's talk about mages because they also got a rework. I think fire mage should be simple buffs and nerfs, and also arcane mages and frost mages. I'm going to explain why, because I think the gameplay is better than beginning of this season, beginning of the expansion. I think they have some choices. It would be nice that they could, like, let's say, play different builds because it got buffed or nerfed. I think fire mages being able to play living bomb would be nice in PvP. I think frost mages should be able to play like a frostbolt machine, but also an ice lance machine, but also like a CD machine with glacial spike, for example. They should have the choices. I think arcane mage really depends. I think it could be nice to have see them like less tanky, but more instant spells, and more like a second school than arcane, something that is combined with frost or fire, so you can actually cast something whenever you're getting kicked on polymorph, for example. So those are like the things I would say. Tweak it for arcane mages, pretty much. But I think it's pretty logical. They got to rework very early, so I think it deserves like that. Let's talk about warlocks, because I'm actually a very much a fan of a warlock. I really like warlocks, and I think demonology warlock should be the #1 rework spec for warlocks. Demonology warlock just doesn't work right now. I think in PvE it's the same problems, really. They want to make you guys cast shadow balls, demon bolts, but they all tickle pretty much. You want to play with a tyrant, which is full of bugs and really annoying to play around it. They want to make you play with the nexus. Again, not very fun. I would like them to backpedal back to Mist of Pandaria or Cataclysm or even Walls of Draenor. I think Legion and onwards, it didn't really work it for me. I think it's not very fun. I think they should not revolve too much about demons. They are themselves demons. They could turn themselves into demons before, and that was actually a very cool niche that you could have. You can have a imp army, that's cool. You can have extra demons, that's cool. But if you want to make something the biggest and baddest demon, why not make yourself the biggest, baddest demon? That would be actually very cool for PvP and PvE. For PvP, you have more agency because, again, the bugs are not going to happen because it's not an AI, it's yourself. And PvE, I think it could be very fun to have like a different playstyle. That's my take. I think Demonology Warlock is not that fun to play, and I don't think it's very fun for a lot of people. I can understand that people maybe like current Demonology Warlock, but I invite you guys to even play private servers, so you can actually understand how fun it was in Mist of Pandaria, Walls of Draenor, or even Cataclysm. I really liked previous iterations of Demonology Warlock compared to this one. Affliction Warlock is also very high on the rework list. I would say rework it. Because I have to get some separation between Demonology Warlock and Affliction Warlock. I think Affliction Warlock was more fun before than right now, and I think a lot of specs currently are in the same boat. I think in general Affliction Warlock should have something else with current meta, where you only like have spells that are tied to shadow, which is cool, but you're getting kicked all the time like an arcane mage, but you don't have other spells except soul rot. You could have something that is extra, like again a demon or chaos or fire or whatever. Just add more stuff towards Affliction Warlock. I think they should just backpedal a bit towards, like, again, Mist of Pandaria. I think it was a very fun experience for Affliction Warlock. I think Cataclysm was also very fun, although it was very busted, so I may be biased towards that. But I think Affliction Warlock was more fun before. Destruction Warlock, I think they should tweak it. I think there are a few talents that can work, but they should maybe remove a few points or shave a few points out of the talent tree from the spec tree. Again, I think the class tree is fine. They should shave a few talent points that are 2-pointers. Instead of 2-pointers, you should put it a 1-pointer and maybe nerf it, I don't care. But make it so you can actually make more choices. I feel like often I want to take something, but I have to sacrifice another thing, while other specs can take all the goodies without getting punished, and then like change a few keystones if they want to play another playstyle. If I miss Cataclysm, the spell, the thing, the AoE Shadow Flame kind of thing. It was very fun. I would like to play that again. I think it's very hard to play with Soulfire, for example. You have to sacrifice a lot of points to get it. I think it would be nice to have a few tweaks here and there on the talent tree. In general, you have three schools, which is Shadow, Fire, and Chaos. But you also have Shadow Flame with Cataclysm, for example. So you have ways to play around it. It would be nice that you have more choices. I'm not sure about Shadow Flame, the actual name. It may be something else. But anyways, Cataclysm is another school of spell. But we cannot take it anymore because you have to sacrifice so many points. I think 3 points to get it. And it's not worth the points that you are spending towards it. Let's talk about Warrior. I think I'm very well versed to Warriors. I think people on the channel actually know me from my Warrior guides. And I think Fury also needs a rework. I think it just is not fun for the enemies to play against. It is often not fun to play as. It is very nervous though. It can be satisfying for a few matches, for a few hours, for a few days. But again, I think Raging Blow and Crushing Blow is just not useful. I play it, but I know that I'm actually sacrificing my damage output that is much easier with Annihilation and just spamming Blood Thirst and Blood Baths. It would be nice to have Crushing Blow back again on the mix. I think it would be nice also to just step away from all those modifiers and bleed damage. I think Fury Warriors should not be played around bleeds. I think it should be played around massive strikes, very fast paced, so death by 1000 needles pretty much, but like a rampaging berserker, which in my opinion is less and less. I think it should really get a rework from the ground up. Reimagining it, I think it was more fun way before. I'm thinking about Mist of Pandaria, for example, here. I don't think it was very fun in Wrath of the Lich King, but Mist of Pandaria, I think it's a great starting point, and then go from there, modernize it, do whatever you want. But I think it does need a rework. It's also very hard to balance. I think every time it's like either Feast or Famine, it's always like on top of the ladder, or it is already like, why take Fury? You could take Arms kind of thing. You just need to rework it, make it different to Arms. If you want to make it the Berserker, like full offensive playstyle, that's good, do it. But rework the PvP talents, rework the talents, and try to make it something a bit more skillful. Again, you don't really need to put button bloat, but again, having to rampage, bloodbath, rampage, execute whenever it procs, have again onslaught if you have it. That would be cool to have more choices on your bars and on your talents. That's my opinion. Arms Warrior, I'm going to be tweak it. I think tweak it. I'm going to explain why. I personally would like them to not only buff the bleeds. I think it's weird to say, but I think Arms Warrior should not only play around bleeds. It played before with bleeds, so it's not like something out of the blue. Because in Wrath of the Lich King, in Cataclysm, you had bleeds that are running and did a lot of damage. But I would like them to put Bladestorm really as a death machine ability that is also being able to get disarmed. So you have like a counterpart. Like for example, Wrath of the Lich King, you could actually disarm Bladestorm. But it did a lot of damage. I think it could be nice to see Moral Strike do more damage than Overpower every single time. But right now Overpower sometimes does more damage than Moral Strike. So would be nice to see that again. Would also be nice to have Spear of Bastion, again, something that is arcane damage, not physical, and also buff it to the point where nobody's going to leave because of a bug on the Spear of Bastion or because of a press of a button, like for example DKs with Death Advance can just walk away from it or fade away from it from a priest. There's so many stops towards the Spear of Bastion that really, is it worth it to press most of the time? I play it because I like it, but I know that most of the time I don't get a kill with Spear of Bastion. It's really, really rare. It's like more of a bait ability, pretty much. so that can be reworked. It would be also nice to like get away from those I pop avatar, I get a blade storm, or I pop avatar, I get a recklessness. Same for fury. I pop avatar, I get a Odin's fury. I get avatar, you get a recklessness. Get away from it. Get away from it. Just make avatar again a good town to pick, but put something else on the left side. You have to take the left side every single time in PvE, in PvP, in world PvP, in dungeons. Like, the left side is never touched, so please rework it so you have more agency towards your choices overall. I'm going to put the lightning. I think it's a lot better like that. So it would be like nice to have it reworked and to be able to how can I say, to have choices on the tree. I don't think they need a rework because I think the PvP talents are actually very cool. You have a lot of choices. You still have more PvP talents going in 10.2 as well, more choices as well. I think the overall playstyle is alright for arms, but I think the damages should be tweaked around, the talent tree should be tweaked around, and I think 2 nodes like the capstones should be reworked. That's all. That's all I need on arms. Let's talk about hunters. I think hunters, you have somewhat of a problem where I think survival hunter really needs a big rework on the spec tree. I think the spec tree needs a lot of love. What do I mean? I think the playstyle is very fun. It's very nervous. It's actually one of the better specs in the game. But from the start of the expansion, you took one build and you're running from it. For it, and then you have like a few talent points that you tweak on the class tree, and that's it. It would be nice to have more choices, but how do you make more choices? By shaving off a lot of points on the talent trees. For example, you have still 3 noders, I think, and 2 noders. That should be just gone and make more choices. They should rework a few things. They should rework how pets does damage. I think pets should be doing alright damage. It should be an in-between between BM Hunter and MM Hunter. I think it should be really cool to play, which is already cool to play, but they need more choices. I get bored by playing Survival Hunter because I always play the same way in the same build, and it should be possible to play a bomb build and do very well, and play a kind of spear build with mongoose bias, or play a pet build, or play a dot build. It should be like one of those 4 things that could be able to be played and to be successful with, which is right now not the case because you don't have enough points to make choices. And it would be nice to have choices back on the trees. I'm going to say BM Hunter is on the same kind of thing, but they already did it on the 10.2, so they changed and reworked a few talents. So this is kind of a confirmation of my feeling towards BM Hunter. Since the beginning of the expansion, the same, you always played the same talent points. I made a build, like I made a guide video, season 1. It's still relevant till right now, and nothing changed since then. Now they finally changed a few things where I feel like, now we can actually talk about another guide, or now we can actually talk me going back on my hunter, because I will have more fun theory crafting a lot of things. But we will still have the problem where, to be honest, there is only one build now valid still, but now you have more points to spend, so you can go towards that build more easily. But it would be nice to have also the left side of the tree reworked and the middle side of the tree. Right now the right side of the tree is reworked, most likely because of PvE and PvP. Would be nice to see a whole rework on that. And I think they need one more like damaging button. I think it should also be reworked, the mastery, how it works. I think they should also put mastery that you can also do damage by yourself. I think kill shot does laughable damage. Often it's not even worth the press. It's better to do a kill command most of the time. And whenever you don't have kill command, then you can do a kill shot. Right now it's ridiculous how less damage it does than kill command. So why would you press it? Also, you don't get benefit of mastery, so I think it would be nice to rework it as well, but we'll have to see if they are going to work on it. Marksmanship Hunter, I think, also needs a rework. I think it also has one build since the beginning of the expansion. They removed double time, which is actually the damaging ability pressed to do a lot of damage on rapid fire or aim shot. That is gone, but you have one build since the beginning of the expansion. You still have one playstyle. Would be nice to have more. People are saying that BM Hunter is piss easy. I think MM is as piss easy as BM Hunter because they still have the same amount of buttons. I really swear that people are like fighting between each other saying BM Hunter is easy, no, MM Hunter is easy. And then you have Survival Hunter, the Giga Chat, saying I am the hardest one. Basically, that is, both are true. MM is super easy to play, of course, to play, not to kite. Kiting is something else, but BM Hunter has the same kiting game. I think BM Hunter is still easier than MM, but MM is also piece easy, so there is no competition there. Then you're both easy to play. You don't have a lot of buttons to press. Everything is lighting up on your bar, and you just need to know what you need to press. That's it. I think they need a rework somehow. Maybe a total rework. I think MM was way more fun in Wrath. Actually, go back to must get rework. If you play MM right now on Wrath of the Lich King, Wrath of the Lich King is live or currently on the Wrath of the Lich King Classic servers. Play MM, come back to me and tell me that MM currently is more fun than Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm going to laugh very hard. I think MM was more satisfying whenever you had more buttons to press and more choices to make. You literally had a disarm, you had a big damaging ability with camera shot, you had a silence shot, you had, again, aim shot doing like a big MS effect. You have ways to be successful as MM. It's just a shame how it actually turns out to be right now, so I think it should need a rework. So again, I revised myself while making the video. I think it really needs a rework, and it's a must-get rework. Evokers, I think Devastation Evoker, everyone is agreeing with me that it needs a rework. I think it needs more buttons, or it needs, like, I think Augmentation Evoker just makes Devastation Evokers actually jealous, because most of the things could have been just Devastation Evoker kit and spells. I think it's missed opportunity pretty much. I think Devastation Evoker in PvE is more fun than in PvP, that's for sure. But PvP, it's cheesy. It's a Frosty case of casters. It's not really especially hard. It's like more clunky, and you don't have the spells, and builds is really the same since the beginning also. I think mastery is a bit bad, especially in PvP, so I would like them to just disregard Devastation and fuse it. You can fuse it with Augmentation Evoker, to be honest, or just rework it. I think it could be needing a rework very soon. I think it will be reworked very soon as well, but we'll have to see how the next expansion is going to be. Augmentation Evoker, rework it. I think everyone can agree, PvE and PvP, that it is kind of obnoxious. I think we are at the point where it's either we're going to go all in the fact where we have a support in the game, so we need more support classes and specs, so that's the point where we are, or we're going to say, look, we don't have plans for other support specs, so we're going to backpedal and go make it a DPS spec or a healer spec. I don't care. It could be also a second healing spec for a class. That could be cool, because you have like only priests that can actually have 2 healing specs. Why not Evoker? Could be cool, which is a healing spec, but like Disc Priest, a bit more of an offensive one, and that could be generally very good. I think that's a better idea. Don't make it a DPS spec, but make it a healing spec, a la Disc Priest, pretty much, and go with it. I think that's the way. A Preservation Evoker, I'm going to say tweak it. I think I don't have much experience on Preservation though, so I'm going to let you guys decide if you're like on this video and you're still watching. Preservation Evoker, how do you want to do with it? Do you want to buff it, nerf it, tweak it, rework it, must get rework, or are you fine with current Preservation Evoker? I'm going to make another row. Comments decides, because I cannot tell. don't really play Preservation Evoker. I also don't really read about them. Preservation Evoker and Devastation Evoker, I'm more well versed because, again, I'm a DPSer, so I need to be interested about DPS specs. But Preservation Evoker is maybe the only healer that I never touched except for leveling, and still leveling. I mean, I'm not level 70 yet, so I can't really tell you guys if I'm really going to rework it or not, but that's why you guys decide. Alright, let's talk about DKs. I'm a huge fan of DKs, you already know that. And you know already my opinion about Frost Decay. It needs a rework. It's pretty much mandatory. I think it needs to go back to how it was in Mist of Pandaria. It really needs to. Or Walls of Draenor. We really liked Walls of Draenor as well. I think it's cool that you have the choices of dual wield and two-hander. That's very cool. But the problem is you still have the same build. You don't really make choices on the tree. I think it would be cool that you're stepping away from all that mastery stacking thing. Change the mastery, that you can actually make it possible to build haste instead of mastery, or build crit instead of mastery. Right now it's either you're going full mastery or you're doing no damage while you're doing Pillar of Frost. So you need to actually rework something to actually make it play around haste maybe, or about crit, or maybe still about mastery, but a bit more interesting. I think as a whole, right now Frost Decay is too setupy. It's a cheese spec pretty much. I still like it though, because I like DKs. It's not really because I like Frost Decay, I just like DKs. I'm actually okay with playing it, but I think it's not a concern of being bad or good. It's about like the playstyle that is just press whenever something lights up, and that's just not engaging. I think it would be nice that Obliterate is actually worth to press outside of Killing Machine. I think it would be nice to have Frost Strike being scary. I think it would be alright to have runic power generation being slower, but that your ability that you're pressing, for example, Frost Strike or Howling Blast, to be really, really strong. So you can actually build your runic power and then dump it, for example. Right now it's like, we have so much running power, we're just using it, and sometimes you're using it for death strikes because you are really, really squishy. You should also be reworking the defensive part. You're going to say, but you have Iceborne Fortitude, you have Lichborn, you have Death Strikes, you have AMS, you have AMZ. We have a lot of defensive presses, but they are peanuts. They are just not great defensives. They are defensives, but not that great. And Death Strike being underwhelming doesn't help. I get that in PvE it's really strong. In PvP it's really not, because it has modifiers upon modifiers. I get that self-healing is not really desired right now to play against, but DKs are probably the one spec where self-healing is actually part of the kit. It's a DK. So either you're going to rework completely Death Strike out of the spec, or you make it relevant again, because there is no way. Or make a PvP talent that makes it like very good healing and very good damage. So it replaces Frost Strike, for example. Let me say something. Death Strike becomes Frost Strike, Death, whatever. So something like that. So it replaces Frost Strike. It makes that whenever you're pressing Death Strike, it actually does like frost damage, it does good damage, and it also heals. But you lose a PvP talent for it, it costs more running power. Boom! You have a good PvP talent that you could maybe press, that has an offensive portion, but also a defensive portion, and it has more runic power, so it's not an easy press to win kind of situation. It is like a sacrifice for a offensive prowess. Again, that's something like I made up right now. It could be very bad, so again, comment section below, don't kill me if you don't like that idea, but I think it needs something extra to make DKs more fun to play right now. And I said DKs, I didn't say only Frost Decay. I think Unholy Decay also needs a rework. I think currently it is much better. You know what? I'm going to put it in rework it instead of. It is currently much better than previously, because they reworked kind of DKs to be able to deal damage outside of pets and diseases. So that's alright. I still think Necrotic Strike should be a thing. I still think making Necrotic Strike a passive is underwhelming, let me say, because you cannot really switch targets whenever you want. It's also a bit clunky. It's also something you don't really see too much. It's also a lot of self-heal, so again, you cannot really like buff death strikes because you know that you're going to get a lot of necrotic wounds healing from the PvP talent. So I think a rework from it would be nice. I think a whole PvP talent section for Frost Decay and Unholy Decay should be reworked as a whole. It would be nice to see them like being back to Mist of Pandaria. Again, I'm going to say Mist of Pandaria very soon, very often, because I think classes were very fun to play in Mist of Pandaria, except maybe Destruction Warlock, because it has like the embers where you're using it to self-heal, so you were more of a tank than anything else. But that's my opinion with Destruction Warlock. I think it would be better to have current Destruction Warlock than Mist of Pandaria, but they need still a tweak. But I do feel like Unholy Decay right now, it needs something outside of the rework that they had just a few months ago. But it would be nice to see them have Necrotic Strike again. Would be nice to see them actually have maybe more difficulties with Runic Power, because Runic Power is very easy to regen as Unholy Decay, but more oomph with the Runic Power you're going to spend. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can actually do with DKs, but it's limiting themselves because they are currently on the retail form. You could easily backpedal to Mist of Pandaria and then work from here, but that's my opinion. Again, don't shoot me. Alright, excuse me, I'm a bit sick. Let's talk about Shamans. I'm also very well versed with Shamans. You guys know me as a Shaman main. Most of my guides were from Shamans, Warriors, even Warlock in Shadowlands, pretty much most Warlock specs. But Shamans is something that always had a place in my heart, because I already played Shamans since TPC, and then like I decided to level it in Wrath and then in Cataclysm, and then we did a lot of threes with my friends. I still think Elemental Shaman kind of needs a rework. They got a rework, kinda, but I think it would be nice to have Lava Burst back to a Wrath of the Lich King kind of style, where you're not really a machine gun anymore, but Lava Burst is really scary. That should be something that you are scared of. But also, you should be scared of Lightning Bolt. You should also be scared of Chain Lightning. You should be scared of all those abilities. It should be also nice that Elemental Shaman could also be a melee form, where you have like a melee build possible, where you can play not with Maelstrom, but let's say you have Maelstrom on class tree. Make it useful to have outside of the class tree, because currently, hot take again, why do you have Maelstrom on the class tree? No one uses it except Enhancement Shaman. Literally, you have Maelstrom on the class tree for absolute air. Either make it an Enhancement Shaman only, or make it possible to play around it as Elemental Shaman or Restoration Shaman. Pick and choose, because right now you have like literally a talent that is only usable for Enhancement Shaman. So why have it on the class tree? That's a rework that could be done for every single spec for Shaman. Either make it incorporated in their spec, so you can actually have a melee healer for Resto Shaman or a melee Elemental Shaman, for example. But currently, we have neither, so why is it on the class tree? So I would like to see Elemental Shaman maybe, again, that's my wild imagination. You have like a very caster-heavy Elemental Shaman. You have like a shock kind of Elemental Shaman where you're playing around shocks like from before. And you have like a bit of a melee weave kind of thing. And you have a melee Elemental Shaman kind of thing. It could be nice. Again, it would be nice to have Elemental Shaman have multiple specs itself, because I think it has loads of potential. You have like a fiery kind of thing, you have like a frosty kind of thing, and you have like an earthy kind of thing, and then an air kind of thing. It would be nice that you can actually split that and make it like an interesting spec, because I think Elemental Shaman itself is one of the most interesting specs in the game. But they are kind of limited to either like a Lava Burst machine or a Cheese machine with Ascendance, or like a Lightning Bolt machine in PvE. It would be nice to have like more of a frosty kind of thing or earthy kind of thing, but that's my opinion. Anyways, enhancement shaman, I think it needs a rework as well, but I must get rework. I think currently it plays alright, but it is too much RNG. I know that it is the history of the spec itself that is around RNG, which I understand. I'm going to move it. Whoop, so we can actually talk about the specs that needs to be reworked. I get that enhancement shaman actually needs a rework, and that is very RNG, and I get that it is like the basis of the spec being RNG with Wind Fury in vanilla, for example. But it would be nice to have enhancement shaman back to two-handers. Guys, I am currently leveling a shaman on horde side, and you can actually take two-handers. You can have a two-hander actually equipped on your enhancement shaman, which as I was actually I forgot about it. I thought it was like gone since a few expansions ago, but you can actually play two-hander enhancement shaman up to whenever you get storm strike. Then it's gone. It would be nice to have a two-handed build like Frost Decay. Just make it possible. Make it like you synergize only like very hard on the Wind Fury kind of thing, and it becomes like a killing machine kind of thing. Again, it could be very fun. Make it more fun about that. Again, I understand that now dual wield thing is like already years, like 10 years into the making, like even more, 12 years. Even more actually, you know, it's since TBC, to be honest, but even TBC you had two-handers, whatever. It would be nice to go back to the place where you actually choose between dual wield for more reliability, and Wind Fury from two-handers that are actually decimating things. Again, also Wind Fury, I think it has too many small hits. It would be cool to have like 2 big hits instead of like 10,000 small hits. Again, I think that's a rework that also needs to be done, like a number creep rework. It's too much numbers and it's not really visible most of the time. Also, what's up with lightning bolts and elemental blast? I get that it does a lot of damage. That's cool, but be more okay with it. Often than not, whenever lightning bolt or elemental blast actually does too much damage, it gets nerfed. So why force it down to us if you really do not want it to be a thing? Either make choices or make it possible that we can make choices for you guys. Also, I think talent tree is very convoluted, very hard to actually get everything we want. We have to always make a choice between the lava lash build or a storm strike build, which is often just like a vanilla kind of thing. So why not have a two-hander kind of thing as well? Again, I think more choices should be done. I think a number tweak should be done. A PvP talent is alright, it's good, but I think the talent trees should be a bit pruned. I think the two Thorim's talents should be like fused together. I think it could be a good thing if it's fused. I think ghost wolves should be baseline in my opinion. It should not be a choice. It should be you have ghost wolves. That's it. That's it. And you have like multiple modifiers towards ghost wolf to make it more powerful. Like have it as stun, like for example in Wrath of the Lich King, kind of thing. But it would be nice to have like more choices around that. That's my opinion again. Restoration Shaman, I'm going to say currently don't touch it. I kind of like the playstyle. I guess simple buffs would be nice towards like the totem management and how visible it can be for allies. It would be nice to have like indications on the ground whenever you have like earth wall, that so you know where is the earth wall. You can have it with add-ons of course, but it would be nice to have like at all times outside of add-ons. But in general, I think Restoration Shaman is an alright place. It does some good damage actually. It does actually some great damage. The totems has a lot of impact. I think healing itself has impact, but it would be nice to have like a simple buff towards like the totems and the placements and how people can notice it, allies and enemies aside. Balance Druid, Feral Druid, and Restoration Druid. Now, Restoration Druid, they got a rework, kinda. multiple times actually. I'm going to say tweak it. They got already multiple reworks. It would be nice to shave a few talent points on the class tree. Would be nice to have a more offensive build possible on the spec tree. But they got a few buffs here and there from Wrath, which I'm very excited. I think I'm really close to being a druid main. I still am bad with like resto druid. It's bound to be. I think I'm just a bad healer, and I'm also very bad at knowing when to play aggressive and when not to play aggressive as a resto druid. But I think they should tweak a few talents, make a few changes towards the spec tree on the placements of the talents, because it's very weird how you have to try to get the capstones, but it's very hard to get those capstones because you have to sacrifice a lot of the good ones. Convoke the Spirits is very hard to take in PvP, unfortunately, because it's a very cool spell, but you don't have the points for it, or you have to play a 2-minute Convoke, which is easily stopped anyways. So again, a few changes there would be cool. Balanced Druid, I think it's alright, no? I don't know. That I'm going to say the comments decides, because it's very hard to say. Personally, I like current Balanced Druid. It does some good damage on Wrath and Starfire, on Star Surges. Starfall build can be played. I think that could be a buff, to be able to play Starfall in arenas, for example. But in RBGs, it's doing alright, so I don't know. I think, again, same, Convoke is very fun, but it's very hard to take or justify the points to it. They get a few reworks here and there. They get like a few buffs here and there, a few nerfs here and there. So they are already changed anyways. But let me know in the comment section below what you think about Balanced Druid in general. Feral Druid. So Feral. They get a few changes on the PTR though, but they get changes like regardless. I think tweak it is probably the best thing I can say. Maybe like Retribution Paladin kind of thing, but that's regardless with all hybrids. Feral Druids has no off healing, or very close to no off heals. Would be like cool to be able to heal again themselves in arenas without a problem. Right now, it's not even worth to go behind the pillar and heal yourself. It would be cool that it is actually worth it to do that. Would be cool to actually have some good off heals while you're doing cat form. I think just in general, hybrids should be able to off heal or self heal pretty reliably, since there is dampening. Since again, it's stoppable as well. Could be nice to have them like being powerful heals, although maybe with a CD or with a proc chance or whatever. But it would be nice to have something that is a bit more cat form again, like Feral that was from before. So tweak it, please. Let's talk about. Let's get monks out of the way. I don't know what to say. I think Mistweaver. Do you need a rework? I think it's a tweak it kind of situation. I think fist weaving is fun, but also unfun to play against. I think it's alright to have a healer being able to deal a lot of damage. It's very hard to judge, man. Whenever I'm playing versus a fist weaver, it feels miserable, but I know how fun it is. I know also that I'm also a very like pro so pro, not pro as a pro player, but pro healers being able to deal damage kind of thing. So I'm okay with healers being able to deal good damage. But Mistweaver is a bit obnoxious with the way how they deal damage, because it's not stoppable except with a CC. While Disc Priest, they can deal damage, but they have to cast spells, which often are not instant. So do they need something that is more of a like casting kind of thing? But it's very hard because Rise and Sunkick, how do you make it a cast, for example? So, or make it a CD, or I don't know, it's very hard. So I'm going to put it in tweak it, but you can also give suggestions if you have ideas about Mistweavers. Windwalkers, from my understanding, they need a rework. Now, I'm not a fan of Windwalkers, so I'm not going to say you must get it, because I think all these specs are more needed. like from a rework kind of perspective. But I think it's very hard. They are all or nothing most of most of the time. It does a lot of damage right now. It feels like an arms warrior pretty much. They have a lot of defensives currently. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to put it into get big, but I know that like windwalkers, they are very bad in PvE currently, from my understanding, or at least a lot of people are actually crying on Twitter about it. So I'm gonna put it in rework it for the PvE boys, but I think PvP wise, I don't really know how they could change windwalker to be able to be more fun. Yeah. Again, no real opinion about monks in general. Having demon hunter, I think simple buffs like tweak it. I think tweak it because they get a rework actually. So I'm gonna put it in must get rework because they get a rework with rogue. So those 4 specs they get a rework on the PTR. So they will feel different from live servers. Now is it like a priority for me? Not really. But I think Blizzard actually said that they are going to rework DHs, and that was actually surprising because, again, I didn't expect them to actually rework DH. I think it was a surprise for everyone. We knew that rogues were going to get reworked, but we didn't know about DH, so I'm actually surprised about that. Last but not least, priests. Disc priest got a few changes, so I'm gonna put it in tweak it because they do get a few changes. I think it would be nice to have them being able to do penance and do a lot of healing and damage with it. It's a castable ability, so it's silencing. You can silence it or interrupt it. You can even mini interrupt them with a CC. So it's not obnoxious to have penance really dealing or healing for a lot. But I saw on the PTR that it does more healing currently and more damage, so it's a good thing. But we have to see how they're going to rework it in general. Holy Priest. Comments decides. I don't really have an opinion about it. It's really the like healer that I never really touched with Preservation Evoker. I don't know if it's fine or not, to be honest. So let me know in the comments if they need a rework or not. Personally, I don't know. Shadow Priest. It would be ridiculous if I put it on must get rework because they get a rework every single expansion, every single patch, every single mini patch as well. But I'm going to put it in tweak it. I think they still are not done with like Shadow Priest. It's pretty obvious. I think they need a few tweaks on the PvP talents. I think they need a few tweaks on the spec tree. I think the class tree is fine. They need maybe more offensive power if you want them to be able to cast or to go for casting. I think it would be nice to rework the mastery. I think it's very silly that you don't really want to put mastery on your stats because then it feels mastery is useless then. So you want to be able to say, look, I want to go full mastery because we want to have benefits for XYZ. Not that you're going to disregard mastery because you can. It would be nice to have like an option, for example, for warlocks as well. It could be nice to have like a full mastery kind of build because you wanted to do that and not because you are meant to do that. Like for example, Frost Decay. But this is my list of reworks I want prioritized or not. Again, only one spec indeed don't touch. I think Holy Paladin is strong and should be kept strong and should be also seen as a huge success for the spec rework. It has 0 to double pointers on the spec tree, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe only one or 0, I don't remember, but they have a lot of choices on the spec tree, a lot of choices on the PvP talents kind of thing, a lot of choices on the class tree. Overall, great spec. So this is the list. Again, thank you for watching the video. Really appreciate you. Please let me know in the comment section below what you think about the list, and we will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.